Every once in a while on this show, a piece of technology comes across my desk that not only truly wows me, but just grabs me, shakes me, picks me up, throws me against the wall, smacks me around and says, take a look at this. And today, on today's video, we're gonna explore what I think is a rangefinder that is the best rangefinder, bar none, I've ever seen. To me, the Bushnell Pro X3 is the Rolls Royce of rangefinders. I'm going to show you why on today's episode. All right, guys. Now, as you know, I've had every rangefinder imaginable on this show, all the way from Chinese cheap knockoffs all the way up to the top of the line. Now, there are rangefinders that will give you a virtual reality experience through them. There are ones that will show you green maps. And then there are rangefinders like this. This was last year's big release for me. This is the Bushnell Pro XE, and this thing just does the basics perfectly. When you're paying for something like this, you're paying for build quality. You're paying for super fine accuracy to the point where they are using these things, the #1 rangefinder, out on all the major tours. It's not cheap. In any way, it's not cheap, and it doesn't have some of the fancy bells and whistles of some more AI-powered devices like the Garmin's or the Voice Caddies. But if you want something rugged, something durable, something that will stand the test of time, and something that you can rely on as a trusted advisor out there on course, you got to turn to Bushnell. They've got the best of the best optics. They've got the best of the best build quality, and they've done innovations that all the other rangefinder manufacturers have really taken and used for themselves. How can something that's amazing actually get better? How can you improve upon really perfection? The cool thing about this rangefinder, the Pro XE from last year, is that it took into account what they call Z elements to create a more accurate slope adjusted distance. So it took things like barometric pressure into account in order to give you a very accurate distance, tour quality distance. Now, with the new Bushnell Pro X3, not only have they improved the build quality, and I will show you that throughout today's episode, but they've also somehow managed to include even more information that goes into the calculation of the Z element compensation. The Bushnell Pro X3 takes into account the temperature that's outdoors, and that can make a big difference. In cold weather, the ball is going to be affected. It's going to compress differently. So they're taking into account temperature as well as altitude that you're playing at into the calculation. So some pretty mind-blowing stuff to make this into an even more accurate device than what I thought was already leaps and bounds over the competition. Oh, and another big improvement that the X3 has over the previous generations of Bushnell rangefinders is that it's got insanely faster speeds. And I used this same analogy in another review I did where I said it's like going from dial-up internet to what we have now, like 5G gigabit Ethernet. It's so much faster, and hearing it is one thing, but experiencing it is something truly different. It's remarkable. So what we're going to do today is we're going to unbox this thing, and I'm going to show you the differences between last year's model of rangefinder and this new Pro X3, and then I'm going to take it out on course in some place other than Florida with elevations that I'm not used to, and we're going to see how this thing works out there in a real life environment while I'm on the road. Let's dive in, guys. All right, so here's the box in front of me. It looks exactly like last year's box as well, but it's what's inside that matters. There's the device itself, and right off the bat, you can feel the build quality. And it's got some nice new elements that it didn't have before. Now, some things that have stayed the same. It's got Bushnell's Bite technology, which is that giant magnet that's super strong. It's got your standard power and mode button up top, but that's about where this thing stops in terms of what we had before. So again, this on my left here is my Bushnell Pro XE from last year. You had the slope switch right here, which you could toggle. Well, now the slope switch is up here on top and it locks in. They've even got a sticker here on top telling you is it has a new locking slope switch. So when I first tried to move this, it wouldn't move. I figured I could just like pop that into place, but it doesn't. It locks. And at first I was like, well, why are they locking it? Why do I now have to use two hands in order to navigate this thing? It's kind of a pain. But I got to thinking, well, you're either playing in a tournament and you want the slope off, or you're playing casual rounds like I am all the time, and I definitely want that compensation on, and I'd only change that one time right before I tee off on the first hole. Ideally, you want to do it unless you forget and you have to do it on the second hole. But you get what I mean. So it only has to actually happen one time during a round. So that's just perfectly fine with me. And in fact, now it's locked in. I don't have to worry about accidentally with my finger just moving this thing. It's completely locked and it's not going to move for the remainder of my round. So that's one big thing there. Now, what this thing does, it's no longer the slope button. What this button does is actually change the display between black text and graphics inside the viewfinder to red, a bright red, which is what I prefer and what I really like. Now, ergonomically, about the same. I would say this feels even maybe a little bit heavier, and because of that, maybe even more durable, but it's really close. I'd have to weigh these. Well, you know what? Heck. I've got a scale here, so why not test this thing out? The old Bushnell Pro XE, 315.7 grams. The new X3, 339.5. So yes, I was right. In hand, it does feel a little heavier, and in my mind, it actually feels a little bit more durable. I also really love this chrome. That's the bling when I talk about the Rolls-Royce. There was a little chrome accents here on the Bushnell Pro XE, but the X3 just looks pimp. I mean, that thing looks really, really good. But to me, cosmetically, the main difference, which is very hard to see actually because I lost the piece, is there used to be a little cup here. And not only myself, but a lot of people complained that that cup would just come off too easily. In fact, I bought a replacement and I lost that one. Well, now they've fixed that issue. This is now an integrated rubber. It's actually part of the optical adjustment, so you can choose what focus you want. If you're a person who wears eyeglasses or who has less than 20/20 vision, you're going to need to change that. But now instead of having that eye cup that would actually fall off, it's integrated into the design. So this is now a much more durable design. They got rid of a part that was failing, and it's that much better. Apart from those changes, this thing works very similarly. But like I said, you've now got altitude adjustments. So if you've ever come to Florida here, a lot of people say, oh, Gabe, you can only hit your 7-iron 155 yards. Well, I can blast at 175. Well, you know, sure, if I was in Scottsdale, Arizona, if I was in Denver, Colorado, I might be able to get my 7-iron to 170, 175, possibly if I took a big whack at it. But here in Florida, it's a different story at sea level. I play at my course, we're 40 feet above sea level. That's a big, big difference. Now this device compensates for that. Now, the case itself looks exactly like the old case, although I will say, if you can see there, this is the new one, this is the old one. It's just a tad bit longer. And I guess this device, yeah, okay, we just learned something. This device is just a tad bit longer as well. So a little bit bigger case in exactly the same style. Inside the box, everything looks the same as my old one as well. You've got the lens cloth and you've got the manual. We don't need any of that. What I would recommend though is that you hook this up to the Bushnell app, because that's how you're going to be able to access some of that advanced data. So let's go ahead and take this out on course. We're actually going to travel up to Rochester, New York, to the Country Club of Rochester, a historic club from 1895, had some of the best architects work on it, including most recently Gil Hance. And we are going to experience a club that has a lot of altitude changes for a guy from Florida. And let's see how we do. All right, guys, we are heading to a par 3 here to start. Just a early test of this thing. Got to carry a little bit of water. Got a big willow tree there on my right. Now, being in upstate New York, I am not used to all the hills and undulation. It's so flat in Florida where I play. This is telling me 150 yards, but because it's downhill just a touch, it's giving me a 2-yard adjustment, so it wants me to hit a 148 club. Into this wind right now, I'd say that's a 7. That looks like I've got a pretty good pop at birdie. Now, the amazing thing that this rangefinder does is not only does it adjust for slope, like I said, I'm in this hilly environment here, but it adjusts for altitude, temperature, barometric pressure. I mean,
It's crazy. So you've really got a very sophisticated artificial intelligence giving you an uber accurate number. It's up to you to hit the club. Stuck that one, guys. We got 8 feet here. That's a birdie. It's an easy game when you got the right tools. By the way, if you're gonna be looking for one of these things, highly recommend you check out my friends playbetter.com. That's where I got mine. You can get yours too. They're the home of free 48-hour shipping across the continental United States. Boy, they're nice people. And if you use the code LPT, you'll get a little gift with your purchase. Playbetter.com, check them out. Link down below. Long par 4 here. This is the 12th hole. And I've got a flag way out there, about 400 yards. I want to see if this thing can hit it and how quickly it hits it. I clicked the button and I got a reading that quick. That's crazy. This puts the previous models of the Bushnell to shame. It has gotten probably 4 to 5 times as fast in terms of getting a reading. 398 is the reading. We got a tough hole here, but we're coming off a birdie, so let's keep the party rolling. Not the longest, but it's out there. All right, so we got to talk about price here when it comes to these top of the line, really best in class rangefinders. Are they that much better? Are they worth it? I think they are, and here's why. I've had cheap rangefinders. I've reviewed a lot of cheap rangefinders. Cheap rangefinders can work really good for a season, maybe 2 seasons if you baby them. But something like this, the build quality, exceptional. This thing is going to last you 5, 6, 7, a decade. A wise person once told me, when you buy something that's expensive, you have to think of the cost per use you're going to get out of it. And that's, in my mind, why you can easily justify the price of this thing. The build quality is there, you can feel it. Well, guys, I found the center of the fairway here, and we've got a really good angle. Got a really good angle at this thing. 169 is the distance. Again, I've got wind into me. With the slope adjustment, I'm getting 1% adjusted, so it wants me to hit a 170 shot. So I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the quickness and speed of this thing. I know I just mentioned it, but it is so different than the previous models. This shot really calls for a fade, I'd say. But that bunker over there, I really want to stay away from it. I stayed away from it. How about that coming off a birdie? Well, I'm kind of glad I hit such an atrocious shot, and I'll tell you why. When it comes to a shot like this, you've got to be pinpoint accurate. I cannot even have a 2 or 3 yard discrepancy like you would get with a golf watch. I have to have precise perfection, because if you're going to score, you've got to knock these ones tight, and I've got to save a par after something that bad. I've got to come back with a really good shot. I'm getting 58 yards. That's going to be 58-degree wedge. There's no slope adjustment on this one. It's pretty level. Let's see if we can hit one tight. I love these beautifully manicured fairways here at the Country Club of Rochester. Hopefully I can pinch one and get some spin on this ball. That's right at it. Be the number. Oh! Didn't check as much as I wanted, but that thing was a dart right at it. We got to putt it par at least. Look where my ball landed here, guys. That's probably 2.5 feet. I don't think that's even 3 feet. So I just didn't get the checkup I wanted, but boy, the distance was perfect there. As it stands, I've got about 12, 15 feet here coming back down the hill, and these are fast greens. It's gonna be a tough par putt. But I gotta get the ball to the hole. Okay, well, that's a bogey. That means we're even par heading to our 3rd hole. We are looking straight up at it, pins up there. I've got 130 is the true distance, but playing 141 uphill. Well, I think it's a good one. As long as the distance was right, we're gonna have a birdie putt. I'm glad I had the Bushnell here, because this green surrounded by bunkers in front, but I'm long, just a little long. It's my 145 club. I took my 145 swing. I got a 145 shot out of it. Thank you, Bushnell. We've got a birdie putt here, just on that back fringe. It's gonna be fast coming down this hill though. Gotta be careful. I was worried about that. It's still rolling, guys. It's still rolling. It's still rolling. It's picking up speed. This thing may go right off the green. Well, guys, failed at going even par, but I had a ton of fun with the Bushnell Pro X3. Check it out. Like I said, I've got a link down below, and I'll catch you back here very soon in another edition of Let's Play Through.